Um, the other benefit we wanted to spend some time on is ICHRA's individual coverage um, health reimbursement accounts. So for anyone who may not be familiar, individual coverage, HRAs, they're the new kids on the block. They got their start just a handful of years ago in July 2019, but that was just a little too close because months later, COVID kicked in and everybody's attention went elsewhere, and that was kind of conflicting with open enrollment season. So COVID delayed ICHRA's turn in the spotlight. They did not get a turn in 2020. It was a very cloudy, unknown moment. Same with 2021. At that point, administrators and employers were very uncomfortable making any changes. They were just trying to kind of keep the boats upright. Most traditional CDH vendors viewed ICHRAs as an unknown, and they, again, were just kind of focused on compliance and COBRA at that time. Nevertheless, we saw some early use cases emerge from smaller employers. Small employees with 20 or fewer employees, they started offering ICHRAs. Most of the ICHRAs came from that small employer market. And it's interesting because they are also an untapped portion of the market, generally less untapped, less tapped than the other benefits we're able to do. So the problem here in those early days for ICHRAs is that brokers and TPAs, right, the main distribution partners for these types of accounts, they remained wary, right? No need to fix what's not broken. They have a business that's going with their current accounts and current administration protocols, and they did not want to create any, they did not want to cannibalize their existing revenue sources without quite understanding how the new one would fit in. There were also limited incentives to adopt. There's always kind of a little resistance to change in the beginning. Also, certainly limited awareness, education, and demand. So that was how we started and how we arrived to the state. But looking forward, or assessment of today, is that in the ICHRA space, there are different names popping up. We don't see the usual names. We don't see Fidelity, Optum, WEX, Allegis. We don't see, UMB Bank. We see a host of other ICHRA platform providers. Many of them are new, formed in the last 3-4 years. A couple of them, I think, are a little bit older, but a completely new set of platform providers. And investors are taking note. Venture capital companies are very curious. I get these calls from those expert networks, and they're all asking about this. And it's not once, it's not twice, it's not 3 times. They don't quite get it. They're not quite bought into it, but we have a few examples of venture capital firms investing in ICHRA platforms. Not enough, but early stages. We already have a few examples of M&A activity and IPO activity. So that's actually very interesting for a very new industry, or for a new type of account like this. Thinking about it again at a very macro levels, I think that there are success factors in place for ICHRAs. Yes, it's early stages and not everybody cares, and that's okay. But what I like about this type of account is that the industry organization has formed. There's an HRA council, a lot of people that are dedicated. They're putting together a very consistent, coherent approach. It's suitable for the current employment styles that we talked about, those contract workers, those temporary workers, etc. And this HRA council, those guys and other entities too, are really focused on putting together educational materials and raising the awareness. Again, because they're new companies, their technology stack is very new. There's like a whole bunch of legacy ankle weights weighing them down. ICHRAs themselves are a pretty customer-centric product. Once you get to the hang of it, it takes a little while to kind of figure out how to shop for a health plan for yourself. And it's a portable benefit, which I think makes it kind of gives it like a little thumbs up, right, over some of the benefits that you might not be able to take over to your new employer. Plus, there's the legislative environment that we're looking at right now. Becky, if you can share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so as mentioned, ICHRAs were passed through executive order, and there is a big push to get them actually codified into the law as an actual benefit. And that I think would be a real game changer, and change the momentum from being kind of just something that's happening that could potentially disappear to really solidifying it in its place. And then further, I think there's some questions or clarity that could be benefited from getting the understanding of how an ICHRA and an HSA can actually coexist. There's some schools of thought that believe that they are truly competing offerings, but depending upon how you design them, you can actually make them kind of coexist. So getting some clarity around that as well.
Yeah, the ICHRA you can maybe use to pay for the premiums on the exchange, or the employer can, and then the HSA can help you with the deductible piece, or anything that's not covered. So looking out on the topic of ICHRAs, it really comes down to the distribution channels. So distribution channels will be key. You need clear pricing. You need to be able to work with brokers. It's not just you making the brokers, informed, engaged, happy, comfortable. It's them stepping in and saying, yes, this is interesting for us. So that's going to be not just for 2025, but kind of the story of ICHRA's life, right? It's going to be we're going to talk about this for years to come. Behavioral change will take time. As compelling a product as you may have, shopping for your own health plan for an individual is daunting. It's not pretty to shop for health plans. I don't know if anybody's done it. It's not easy. So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. It might take a generation for people to get comfortable and have it be a no-brainer to go get your own health plan. That said, it is an opportunity to corner the contract or the hourly employee market. You have all those people working with the Ubers and so on. And that is an area where traditional benefits have not necessarily made as much progress as they have with the traditional employee segments. So we have an opportunity here for ICHRAs to maybe